So I'm here tonight with Dr. Marc Bloomenstein. Dr. Bloomenstein is a 1990 graduate of UCLA. He received his optometric degree from the New England College of Optometry in 1994, just 1 year after the greatest class of all time graduated in Echo. His timing is, well, he's got other things going for him. But after graduation, Dr. Blumenstein finished a residency in secondary ophthalmic care at the Barnet Dulaney Eye Center in Phoenix, Arizona. He's a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry and a founding member of the Optometric Council on Refractive Technology, serving as president from 2009 to 2011. Currently, Dr. Blumenstein practices at the Schwartz Laser Eye Center and is president of MRB Eye Consultants. He's delivered over 500 invited lectures worldwide and serves as a consultant to numerous industry-leading pharmaceutical, biomedical, and information technology companies. Aside from lecturing and publishing on numerous anterior segment and refractive topics, Dr. Blumenstein is on the editorial board of Primary Care of Optometry, Review of Optometry, Optometry Times, Advanced Ocular Care, Optometric Management, and Contemporary Optometry. He serves on the board of many optometric societies, including the Ocular Society of Optometry and the OCCRS. He served as the president of the Arizona Optometric Association. Dr. Blumenstein has been awarded the Arizona Optometric Association's Presidential Award twice. Dr. Blumenstein also served as president of the board of the Arizona Charitable Foundation. Now, give me a second to catch my breath. That's quite a CV you got there, my friend.
Well, I kind of thought that, the longer my CV was, it's like you get paid by the word or the minute. So yeah, I was looking for stuff.
Yeah, well, you're getting paid.
Alan, did you ever get one of those things where they say you've been nominated to be like top optometrist or best optometrist?
Yeah.
So I have about, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I have like 11 of those.
And
so I was going to include those.
There's beautiful wood plaques that they send you, and you pay for it?
Yeah, pretty much. I remember the very first time, it had to be, like the early 2000s. I'm like, this is amazing. I cannot believe it's like, I want to thank anybody. And then when I got it again, and then when I went into somebody's office who I had no respect for and I saw it on their wall, I realized that it just didn't mean anything. So
yeah, some guy's running some company somewhere, some guy with a big thick mustache that looks like the My Pillow guy making a ton of money giving those awards away, huh?
100%. That's actually a good idea. We got to do something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe what you could do is the Fluorescein Award, or the fluorescence or something, where you can just offer that to people. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'll put that on my list of things to do. How's that?
Yeah. You have no time. So
no time,
I mean, you have like tons of time. So.
Right. You'll be the. I'll hand all the work off to you. Now, what I did want to say though is, you're here because a poll that I posted in ODs on Facebook asking them who they most wanted to hear from, and you were one of the most requested interviews. So that's a huge compliment. I mean, it's big community. They know who they like, and they miss attending your lectures, which not only cover an incredible breadth of anterior segment refractive surgery and other knowledge, but they keep the docs on their toes waiting to hear what you say next. So what I would like to do, I like my interviews to be a little more personal, is have you start off by telling viewers how you've been hanging during COVID, what's been going on with you, and more importantly, did you get to go to Starbucks at all?
Thank you for asking. I did get a chance to go to the Starbucks. So many people don't know this, but I pretty much wish that I was a barista. It's like I aspire to be a barista, just being able to know what goes in a caramel macchiato versus what goes in a pink drink, or literally anything that they're doing there. I just don't think I can handle that. But every morning, so literally every single morning, I wake up and I ride my bike about 7 miles to the Starbucks, so there and back. And so when I come to work every day, there's the coffee cup looks like it made it through like a hurricane or something. It's spilled all over the place. People are like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I did make it to the Starbucks.
How long
did it take you? Gosh.
How long did it take you to figure out not to put the opening where you drink through on the same line with the seam? That's what I want to know.
That is so. For those of you who are listening, if you didn't learn anything, that's exactly right. So you can see the seam here, and the opening is right there. Alan, you nailed it.
Yeah,
probably about 6 ties, that were ruined because it kept dripping on it. So yeah, many months, many years. Yeah.
It's
So
one it's
yeah,
it's
kids
one of
today.
those problems that putting a cup in a cup doesn't even solve, you know. But
You're 100% right.
anyhow, been there,
So
done that.
you asked me what I've been doing about the vid. To be quite honest with you, it's Arizona. We're like, let's throw vid to the wind. We're one of the states where our basically said the best to get rid of it is to give it to everybody. So then we're all in this together. So we haven't been really shut down as much as most people. But people, most people who know me probably realize that I kind of have this ability to kind of project this like, hey, I'm super, but I'm no. I'm like, yeah, stay away from me. So I'm pretty happy because I love the fact that we wear masks now because literally it's like I don't have to talk to patients as much. So then also too, walking through public, it's like I have my sunglasses on, my mask on. I look like a Unabomber, and I'm cool with that. And so it really just kind of keeps people away from me.
The look
But
suits
what have
you.
I been doing? Yeah, I've been hitting the Peloton. There's Peloton back there somewhere. I grew this out
Hmm.
for no reason because
That's
I
cool.
have nothing like you going on up here.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
It's all about that. That optometric comedian title should be optometric Unabomber because you really are. You really look like you're turning into him.
To be honest with you, I think that that should be my new title. It should just be Unibrow Bomber. So I could do
Unibrow
that.
bomber. Interesting. All
The
right. Well, we'll see.
Unibomber. The
When I have
Unibomber.
you back, we'll we'll
Yeah.
we'll, we'll change it. We'll put the more accurate title up there.
Well, I have a feeling, Alan, after this airs, your ODs on Facebook community will basically say, yeah, we totally blew it on that one. We should have gone with somebody else. So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's right. I'll put a follow up poll. You won't want to read that one.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, totally.
one of the things we didn't talk about in the bio because I didn't have enough air in my lungs was the collaborative corner, your collaborative corner show, which was on iTube OD, but now it's on iTube, right? Correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I think I think it is on that. It's
now
through those kids.
I watched a few of them, so I could have something to talk to you about today. And
Sorry
about
about that.
about a month ago, you talk about presbyopia. And you
Hmm.
said, this is a quote, all of a sudden, I'm reading this, I'm having a hard time seeing up
Hmm.
close. Now, I hate to burst your bubble, but we were a year apart in school. So I know how old you
Hmm.
are. And trust me, viewers, it ain't all of a sudden. Now, am I seeing you, though, with less glasses on lately? Like since September
So
2020, inquiring minds want to know.
So here's the deal with the glasses. So I'm a little bit nearsighted. I'm like about a -75, -50, one eye, and maybe like -50, -50. So I've got about a diopter. And so I'm working that thing as hard as I possibly can.
Uh,
When we first started going virtual, and I would have my glasses on, the ring lights and stuff would come off my glasses, so people
yeah,
were like, dude, your glasses are hideous,
yeah,
or take off your glasses. But then also because I don't really have to read or do anything here, so I just don't wear them as much. But yeah, no, I can still get by without it,
yeah. There's,
so I'm going to
well,
ride that as long as possible,
well, there's a good
which is
optometric.
why working
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, working in a cataract and refractive surgery center, people are like, oh, you've probably had LASIK. And I'm like, yeah, I have. It's amazing.
Well,
But I
there
really haven't.
there
But
have
they don't
been
have to know that.
there. By the way, a great invention. We got to figure out a way to get rid of those Zoom eyeglass rings somehow. But anyhow, there have been a lot of advancements in treatments in surgery for presbyopia. So this is a great segue into
Yeah.
talking about that. One of the hottest topics now are these small aperture presbyopia drops. Um,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about them and tell us what's the prescriptive range that patients qualify for with that technology.
Well, the interesting thing is, I mean, none of them are approved. And so it's interesting you bring that up, Alan, because what I've started doing now is talking to my early presbyopic patients, or basically, I'll give you a perfect example. Earlier today, I had a detective from the Phoenix Police Department. And she was dropping F-bombs on me like they were going out of style. And I'm like, girl, I get you. Okay. And she also scared me because I kind of felt at any second she was going to throw me to the ground and cuff me, but that's a whole separate story. And so she was literally had LASIK about 4 weeks ago, and she's 49 years old. And her complaint now is I can see like the beep, beep. I don't know if this is an R-rated show, like if we can drop F-bombs. I'm not going to, but she did.
Okay.
I mean, but that's cool. So she's like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, hey, girl, I got you. But she said she can't read. So she was a perfect patient where I said, look, in about a year, I mean, maybe a little less than a year, because there's a company that's coming out where they're going to be using compounding. It's called, the name of the drop is called iFocus. And they're compounding one of these small aperture medications. And, compounding to me has always been a little risky. It doesn't go through the same FDA process. We see that with some of the cyclosporins or some of the other injectables. But Allergan's coming out with a small aperture pilocarpine. They're going to add a little special sauce in that. And they're in their phase 3 clinical trials right now. And you ask what kind of range that's going to be. To be quite honest with you, I think what they're looking at is whether it be mesopic or even just, in photopic environments, patients are going to be able to gain 3-4 lines of acuity, which I think is fantastic. So I don't think it really matters what their visual acuity is per se, because of the pinhole effect they're going to get. And so I looked at this detective and I just said, hey, hang in there. There's going to be a drop that you won't have to use contacts for or glasses. And I think she's pretty excited about that. So, yeah, I mean,
we learn about the side effects of miotics, and for up until this point, it's been a big no-no because of the side effects. How are companies getting around this if they're using this, they're increasing the depth of focus this way?
Well, when I mentioned to you about the special sauce, right? So literally what they're doing is they're able to kind of create a meiosis without creating the miotic effect. They're not using anything to change the ciliary body effect. So they're not going to get the headaches. We're not going to get some of the ancillary effects that you're talking about, as well as the redness. Adding in something like brimonidine. I know there's another company that's using brimonidine to stabilize some of the side effects that you're seeing too. So I think what's exciting is that it's for those of us that remember like carbachol and pilocarpine and the effects that came with it. The newer versions of these are kind of almost what it reminds me of. It reminds me a little bit of like when Lotemax first came out, or loteprednol. And loteprednol was, we talked about the steroid side effects, and we talked about how, we worry about increased pressure and cataracts, and knowing that it's an ester-based steroid, and right now, I mean, I know this is tangential, but we've got as much time as we can take, is that there's so many different loteprednol kind of like variants out there, whether it be, the new drop by Suvis from Cala and Inveltus from Cala, just different concentrations of the same amplified version of the loteprednol, or whether it be Lotemax SM, that submicron. And as a side note, did you know that they were originally going to call, Bausch & Lomb was going to market this as Lotemax AF. So it was not supposed to be SM, it was going to be AF.
Oh boy.
And so they went home and people are like, Lotemax AF. I'm like, hell yeah. I would write that drop all day long. And one of the, I guess the marketing people's kids said, ha, AF. That's funny. They're like, what do you mean? They're like, as fuck. And it's like, oh. So then they changed it to SM. But like that, remember how when it first came out, it was all very kind of soft steroid. It broke down by the esterases as opposed to the ketone-based steroids. So I think what we're going to see, especially with these new formulations of drops, especially the small aperture presbyopic drops, is that they're going to carry the miotic effect and maybe just a tiny little pseudo accommodation, depending on what they add in there. But they're able to relax some of those side effects. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting, especially for us as optometrists.
We'll wait for the second generation, the loteprednol WTF. That's follows
Seriously.
AF, right? Well, you
Yes.
you had me at esterification because my next question gets into the molecular side of things. When I and I'm sure many of us when we heard about this, I wasn't even thinking miotic. I was thinking that these are presbyopia reversal drops, biochemical drops. And
Hmm.
in the pharmacological treatment of presbyopia, I know that Novartis and other companies are working on drops that actually cleave the disulfide bonds that form in the lens. And my understanding is historically the problem has been cleaving bonds. It's been there's a bunch of proteins we know that do this, but the problem has been drug delivery because a drug that cleaves a disulfide bond in the lens will cleave every disulfide bond as it goes towards the lens if it's in drop form. And there are disulfide bonds in the cornea, the scleral, the retina. And I think that disulfide bonds are broken in the folding and unfolding of rhodopsin as well. So, you can't put a needle in the lens to deliver it. So this I'm sorry to go all biochem on you, but how are they
Seriously.
approaching the drug delivery problem with those next generation presbyopia drops?
Damn, I thought this was going to be super chill. I think most of the people watching this are going to be like, honey, can you pull out the chemistry book? We need to get our OChem here, talking
this
disulfides and
this is as hard
oxidation and
it's as hardball as it gets, but don't worry, no more. But this is really relevant, I think, because they're talking about these things, and I feel like a lot of the companies are presenting them as presbyopia reversal drops. So really, are we going to see that?
yeah. So before I answered that though, I was going to say when we first came on, I told you that I thought you looked like Joe Rogan. Now I've never watched his show, but I would just assume that he talks about like pooping and farting a lot and just other kinds of stuff. I'm not sure that he gets deep into oxidation and disulfide bonds, but hey, I feel ya.
He's
Yeah,
pretty
so
substantive in some
di
ways, but yeah.
is he? Yeah, I've never watched him.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he does
Dioptin.
the show high, so that's the big difference between us.
Is it though? Is it though, Alan?
I can't be
Is
talking
it?
about that.
So
Is not going
he's
to be.
high.
You
Yeah,
can't say that F
right.
word on here, and that's not a subject we're going to get into right
Right.
now.
Oxy. So anywho, yeah, so you mentioned the Novartis, and the Novartis is a prodrug. So I hope that what you just described is what they're hopefully finding because they've done some studies outside the United States, and more importantly, they're starting their phase 3 clinical trials for this prodrug, which basically means that it starts off in one form as it traverses through the cornea, and then it changes into that second form. So it's going to basically kind of create it won't be a disulfide bond breaker, if you will. I mean, the lipoic acid plus the chlorine esterase gets through the cornea, then it cleaves off the chlorine, and the lipoic acid then becomes the ability to kind of break those disulfide bonds as it gets into the lens. So they say. I think interesting enough, though, what you just said though is the proof is going to be in the pudding. I guess is it going to work? I don't know because I think that's a lot more challenging than just creating that meiosis. Now we're talking, softening the cornea, allowing more of the natural processes to reverse themselves. We'll
Yeah.
see.
See, you do know your way around a molecule. You were yanking my chain there.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but
Oh.
I
Well, I
mean,
mean,
interesting with the Novartis though. If you look at the data, I'm a little concerned because it only adds like 1 or 2 lines of near acuity, and I don't think that's enough. I
yeah.
mean, patients want to have J1, J2, be able to kind of feel like it's worth it. So I don't know. We'll see.
I think that
But
ophthalmology got all excited about the bendable IOLs over all these years, and all they did was provide 1.5 diopters. Where I think they're missing the ball on the bendable IOLs is they don't even take into account what optometry teaches with Sheard's criterion that you really need 2/3 of the power that you're looking for in reserve. So if you're going to get a bendable 2.5 diopter lens, people will be able to see but won't be able to sustain that near vision. They're going to need 7
right,
diopters, like really, to provide. That's
right.
something I've always thought about. But anyhow, we're getting heady
Well,
here.
but you know what I think would be even better is what if you combined the two of them? What if you did so you did a like the dioptin, which is the Novartis drug. I don't remember the call letters that they're using, but I think they're naming it dioptin with something like Presbyosol. which is the AbbVie, the Allergan drop. So you have a myotic pupil and you're working to try to maybe soften the lens. I wonder if that would, kick in and give patients even more.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're going to be symbiotic.
Yeah. Additive
We shall
effect.
see.
That would be, then I'd be set. I mean, my multifocal contacts work great, but like that would be incredible.
So I absolutely suck at fitting contact lenses. I've come to the realization that when a patient says that they're interested in contacts, I'm one of those people. I find a reason that they shouldn't have contacts, or I feign that I'm sick and I have to cancel the appointment. And they need to schedule with somebody else. I'm terrible.
Hey, as
Terrible
long as
contacts.
that's not part of your job. I mean, you still as an optometrist are really the only doctor in the world that's qualified to fit contact lenses. They're not going to get a better fit than an ophthalmologist or an optician. So, I mean, they're still going to get the best thing they can from you. Although if you don't like it, that's a whole nother story. But
Yeah, I don't know.
you're big on the other refractive tech. They come to you for much more serious surgical stuff like phakic IOLs, which I saw an article you wrote in 2001 where you called phakic IOLs the next great refractive surgery. And you know what I say about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why aren't
Isn't that sad? But isn't that sad?
Yeah. Why
So
aren't they?
okay.
Do you like the sound effect? Did you like the sound effect?
Yeah, I love that. It is crickets. And you know what I think too? I blame you, the listener, the optometrists out there, for
Really?
not getting your patients psyched about this. Now, granted, there's only, one company that makes one lens here in the United States, that we have approved, and that's the Vision ICL. So in 1990, I want to say 1997, 1998, we were involved in the clinical trials for the hyperopic and the myopic version of the ICL. And we had 10 patients who were non-seeing hyperopic eyes. So literally it was a phase 2 study, right? We're putting it into patients, but the best acuity was 2200 or worse. And so it literally was just, can you do it or not? And we were putting in these lenses in these patients' eyes, and they were freaking loving it. They were like plus 14s or plus 12s. I had a mortician who was in the study, and she said to me, I will kill you if you take this lens out of my eye. And I'm like, and I think you know how. And then we started talking about like, do you do stuff with the bodies? And she's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what's wrong with you? But it was phenomenal. The lenses worked great. We did the toric ICL myopic study in like 2000, 2001. And I really think that the FDA just freaking hated Star Surgical. So the Monrovia company, they basically just said, yeah, no, we don't give a shit about you. And I'm like, what the? So that lens finally was approved like so many years later. But I think the bigger challenge is, and this is why I said 2001, this lens sits at the nodal point. It improves patients' quality of vision from the inside out. It's reversible, not reversible. Let me digress. It's removable. Once you cut into the eye, you can't reverse that. It's a removable process. But the exciting thing about it is it's like wearing a contact all the time. And if something goes, not so great, you can just pull it out, poof, right back where you started.
You're
What
preaching to the.
I think.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm preaching to the choir. But here's the thing: LASIK is like so freaking great that the question now has to be, well, why would we not do LASIK, and why would we do an invasive procedure like this? So, yeah, I still think it's a great procedure.
See, I think you're blaming optometrists. I do too. By the way, I've seen some incredible cases, life-changing cases. I'm a huge fan, and it takes a really good surgeon to explant one of those things, though. So, but yeah, it can be done, and I see it differently. You know how you said you don't like to fit contacts, and maybe people who don't do it lose some of their skills over time. Well, I think with the surface refractive surgeries, a lot of these surgeons who had grown up learning inside eyes from everything from 7mm incisions down in their training, now are just so used to being on the outside of the eye that they're scared to go in there. They don't want to take the risk of a crowded angle or, decreased endothelial cell counts. They're just chickening out, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think, but this goes to my point, what I said before, is that why LASIK is an easy cop out, because if if a patient is a good candidate, and so one of the things that when I evaluate a patient for refractive surgery, I always say the same thing to them. I say, my job is to find a reason why you should not have surgery. You know, you can have surgery probably anywhere, but you're not going to see great. We want to make sure that if we do this, that you're going to have the best opportunity to get the best quality of vision you can for the rest of the year, however long. And so I think a lot of surgeons look at that and they just think, you know, I can do this with LASIK, or I can do this with epi-LASIK, the French version of PRK. Epi-LASIK, so nice. But then ICL just becomes, well, I will do that if those aren't available. And to your point, I mean, I think because it costs a little bit more and because it's more invasive, I think it's been pushed aside. But I also think what you said with the cricket sound, you know, is that out of sight, out of mind. I mean, it's just, if doctors aren't seeing them, if we're not talking about them, then it just doesn't, you know, come to light, which is why I think ODs, us, I have a lecture that I do. It's called Refractive and Cataract Surgery, Who Run Bartertown. Now, I try to get all these stupid titles because they amuse me and I'm the only person that I care about. And so, do you know the reference to Bartertown?
No.
Okay. So, one of the best Mad Max movies ever is Mad Max Thunderdome.
Okay.
Tina Turner,
I remember.
right? Now, yeah, Mel Gibson, you know, part of cancel culture. Maybe we need to let him go. I don't know. Still love Braveheart. Freedom. But Mel Gibson in that, if you remember the movie, 2 men enter, 1 man leave. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. But the whole town, Bartertown, was basically illuminated by a shit farmer. And his name was Master Blaster. And so literally, if you got sent down, like if you got in trouble at Bartertown, you would have to go down to this and shovel shit to just keep the pig shit, to keep the lights on. So Mel Gibson was down there and he basically was giving Master Blaster a hard time. And he looked at him, he basically said to him, he goes, well, you're nothing. He goes, what do you mean I'm nothing? And he's like, I run Bartertown. And so he got on the big megaphone and he goes, and he said to Tina Turner, who run Bartertown? And he made her basically say, Master Blaster run Bartertown. How I'm going to circle this back to optometrists is we are Master Blaster. We run Bartertown. We see 90% of all contact lenses, as you said. We see 80% of all comprehensive eye exams. And to me, the power that we yield by telling our patients what surgeon they should see, what procedures may be in their best interest, what new technology, whether it be, you know, you're talking multifocal contacts or the diffractive lenses or the EDOF lenses or the EDOV lenses that they can get for surgery, the optometrist really is the one who makes those decisions. And I think we have to empower ourselves. And I think sometimes we wait too long to do that. I think that discussion should be at every appointment and as early as we possibly can, what their options are. Start with contacts, then move to refractive surgery, then move to their cataract lens options. Who run Bartertown? We run Bartertown. We do.
Wow. That's some soapbox. Yeah. That's like a Costco-sized soapbox that you just got off of.
Yeah. That is a long drink. That's a long walk for a short drink of water. But you know what? We run Bartertown. We do.
I love it. I love that analogy. That is great. I'm going to have to absorb that and maybe I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Wash myself off.
You might need to take an Imodium or something.
Take a shower after that one. You know, one of the things I want to tell our viewers, one of the things I like to do with this show is to get people to know the people I interview, because they see them on the stage, they see them on the videos. These viewers are going to get to know, they know the lecturer, but they don't know what you've done for the profession. And you've served as legislative chair for the AOA, president for your state, and on the political action committee of the AOA. Can you tell our viewers how important supporting state and national association is to the profession, and how people who aren't involved should look into getting involved?
Yeah, it probably is the second most important thing you can do. I mean, the most important thing you can do, obviously, is keep yourself educated so that when you walk into a lane, you're not talking about something 10, 15 years ago and the rest of the profession is moved on, which is, at the start of this talk, we were talking about some new products that haven't even been approved. And it's just, to me, I think, it's more gratifying to be able to look at a patient and say, hey, I know something's coming, or hey, look, there's a new product. Some of these nouveau or kind of niche products, like for neurotrophic keratitis, something as tiny as like Oxervate from Dompe, which some of you viewers have used, and some of you may be going, I have no idea what he's talking about. The second thing to me is keeping involved in the profession. And the only way to really do that is by supporting the people that keep our profession where we're at. There's so many things that the AOA are doing behind the scenes, and your state association is doing, your legislative, it's interesting because if you look at 2021, right? And you're watching right now, we're in the middle of, what's going on in Washington, D.C. We saw what happened on January 6th in 2021, just how fragile a lot of these legislative decisions and the scope of our practice is hinged on legislation. And so supporting legislators that basically align themselves with our thought process, which is that we know that we're capable of managing and caring for patients from the front of the eye to the back of the eye. And the AOA basically is the only national source that actually can accommodate that for us on a national level. And your state association is the one that keeps it within the state. So, it's interesting you brought up, the things that I did early in my career, and I just don't even think about it. But I would never even think about not being a member of the AOA. Going to the AOA meetings, or listening and being involved in what's going on in legislation. So yeah, first and foremost, educate yourself. Second and foremost, stay involved. Absolutely critical.
Thanks for saying that. You influence a lot of people out there, and when that comes out of your mouth, it means a lot more than just anyone telling everyone. So I'm sure people will take that to heart. And we're getting close to wrapping up now. A couple things. You live in Arizona, and you're a workoutaholic. We've already talked about the biking thing, right? We were in Boston together, but could you have picked a hotter state to live in, like to drive anything except other than a Peloton?
Yeah, I probably could have, but I actually ended up in Arizona, not because I chose to end up here. So true story. I mean, I don't know about you, Alan. What did you know you wanted to be an optometrist since you were like a tiny? Well, you are tiny. So when you were even more tiny, like a mini Alan?
You mean when I had hair? Yeah, I
Yeah,
did not know that. No, I wanted to be a vascular surgeon.
really. So
That's
then
it.
what chose? I'm going to
So
interview you now. So when did
yeah.
you decide to become an optometrist?
I took a year off after undergrad, and I was a little confused. I went and followed a few vascular surgeons, and they were like, they weren't making any living until they were 37 after all their training and their different residencies and blah blah blah, right? Externships, and I'm like 37.
Right.
I sound really old to me. My dad's an OD. He was an OD, and while I was at, I never stopped to think about what he did, but that year I was watching him, and I'm like, he was just so happy with what he did. And it was medical enough for me. I would get out at 27. And so it just seemed like a better path for me. And it was,
Yeah.
it really was. But, I still
It's
have
worked out.
times where I
It's
think
worked out
about
nice for you.
how many people's lives I could have saved. But now we're saving vision. So, it's all
Yeah.
good.
So my path was very similar to yours. I was trying to date some girl in undergrad, and going biology at UCLA, and I'm thinking medical school, and I actually had a biochem teacher say to me that, with your personality, I don't think you should be a doctor. And I'm like, why? He goes, because you're not smart. And I mean, I don't know if that was a joke. I didn't, but So I was in this biochem class with their gal, and her name's Terry Vo, if I can say her name. She's actually an optometrist in Virginia.
Mhm.
And I'm like, Terry, we should study this weekend. And Terry's all like, oh, I'm studying for something called the oats. And I'm like, yeah, so am I. No idea what the oats were. I have no idea. She goes, I didn't know you wanted to be an optometrist. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the absolute 100% truth. I called up the Oats, got somebody in Houston. She's like, you better hurry up. The test is like in a few weeks, y'all. And I'm like, maybe I'll go to Houston. And she goes, maybe you will. Where you at? And I'm like, I'm in Los Angeles. And then can you hit your cricket sound again?
Oh. Sorry, I wanted to spare you that.
So I'm like, okay, crickets. And I go, hello. And she goes, oh, I was just thinking, yeah, you're probably better off staying in California because we only take the sharpest knives in the drawer out here in Houston. So I ended up taking the oats. Terry was not interested in me. And she was interested in Ramon, our TA. He was ripped. He was from Costa Rica. Can't
Hold
blame
on.
her.
I got a sound for that. I got a sound for that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, pretty much. So I ended up actually going to school in Boston, and then I came out to Phoenix to do an internship. You know, your fourth year internships things, and I mean, fell in love with the state. I mean, back in the early '90s, it was phenomenal. I mean, yeah, it was racist pretty much at that time still, but it was, it was great. I mean, great learning experience, great opportunities. And so I've never left. Yeah, good times.
I didn't think Boston was
So,
any less racist than anywhere I've ever been. I thought it was. That's a whole other
yeah.
conversation, but we're not going to get in
Oh,
it. But
wicked,
look,
wicked Dockin.
two
Oh,
Necco schlubs that made good. It's great. Let's
yeah.
wrap up with, tell us about, I know your wife Jill is an optometrist, and you have sons Zach and Maxwell. What are the kids doing?
So first of all, Jill is not an optometrist. She
Oh,
pretends she's an optometrist. Yeah. So she's
okay.
actually, yeah, she's a speech. So there was a great story where I had her try to diagnose my EKC, brought her into the lane. She looked at my anterior chamber. She's like, yeah, I think I see cells. So she diagnosed neuritis. So to be quite honest with you, Alan, she's the worst optometrist that's not an optometrist I've ever had. It was EKC. She sucked.
I
So no,
thought
she's
I
a
did my
speech and language pathologist.
I thought I did my
Yeah.
homework, man. I feel stupid now.
No, no, it's all cool. So
The internet
between the
says
two of us, we have
differently.
four.
The internet says differently. I'll show
Really?
you.
Yeah, you'll have to send that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But between us, we have four kids. I have
Oh,
three. She has one.
uh-huh.
My oldest son is going to be a nurse. He's in Henderson, which is good. My third child is my daughter, Sierra. She's going to be a dentist. She's breaking my heart right now. Because as a UCLA graduate, she's at USC Dental School. Yeah,
First
yeah,
world problem.
disgusting. So, yeah, seriously. Jill's son is in the Navy. He's 21, and then my youngest son, Max, thinks he wants to be an optometrist. He's a second year at U of A, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I watch what you do, Dad." He goes, "You don't work that hard. Looks pretty cool."
That's
And I'm like,
awesome.
"Yeah,
That's
okay, Max." Yeah.
Well,
So
listen,
we'll see.
sounds like a beautiful family. My dad is as proud as he was that I followed in his footsteps. The fact that I didn't want to do VT broke his heart. I'm like, Dad, how much can I follow in your footsteps,
Oof.
for God's sakes?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's all good. But well, listen, this has been a blast. It's always good catching up. We'll get. I know that these live CEs are going to be happening before we know it. So I look forward to catching up with you at one of these conferences. You're going to be at the at what is it? What's happening in Orlando? Oh, Expo. You going to be heading down there?
Expo in May. Yeah, I'll be down there.
I think it's in
Everybody should come
June.
on out.
I think it's in
Yeah.
June. But anyway,
Is it in June?
I think so. Well, we'll hang in there, and then
We'll be
th-
there.
thanks again. This has been great. I want to hopefully you'll join us again, and in a few months we'll have you back.
Anytime. Do it anytime, Al.
All right, bud. Listen, take it easy, be safe, and keep rocking that clinic. Okay.
Bye, everybody. Be safe.